mic is live, the stage is set. Words like fire you won't forget. Every topic, every thread. Living stories in your head. Turn it up, feel the beat ignite. Conversations flowing bright. In your ears, day or night. This is the sound that feels so right. Mic is live, the stage is set. Words like fire you won't forget. Every topic, every thread. Living stories in your head.
As always, everything we discuss is for entertainment and is speculation. Please like and subscribe, and definitely join our discussion in the comments. If you're ready, let's get into it. Welcome back to Typically Unique. I'm Kim Aponte, and I'm here with my husband, Carlos.
Hello. Glad to be back.
Yeah, we were worried about you for a minute.
Oh, yeah. I'm alive. But today we're going to talk about some things that we attempted to talk about a little while ago. So this is our second attempt, and see if we can get through this one. And we have a few things that we want to talk about. So let's get into it.
Yeah,
All right.
discussing this case.
Yes.
Let's get into it. We have been really talking about all the evidence. I call it evidence, you call it information that I keep coming to you saying, well, what about this? Well, what about this? Well, what about this? And I guess one of the big things for me has been that they had other unknown male DNA in the house. So I've been printing out all the documents that talk about that and reading them. I just think that is a huge indicator, because we're talking about, did Bryankohberger do this? Did he do it alone? Did he do it at all? Are my questions.
I guess before I give you my thoughts, where do you land on that? Where do you personally land on that? Did he do it? Yes, he did do it, but not alone.
I think it's possible he might have had something to do with it, just because we know his DNA was on the sheath, because that's the only thing they have, in my opinion. I don't think the car data is strong, exact, proven evidence. Any of that other stuff about him, I don't think is strong beyond a reasonable doubt evidence. So I kind of lean towards, it's odd that he has a trace amount of DNA on one tiny little part of a sheath. So I'm suspicious about that. So I kind of think, no, it's not him at all.
So you don't think he was involved in any way, shape, or form?
I cannot see anything that absolutely puts him at the house to commit the crime, except that they found trace DNA on the sheath. Right.
And so if there were anybody else involved, there would even be less evidence against them than what they have against Bryankohberger, because you can convict with circumstantial evidence.
Of course.
And he has a ton against him. There is very little, I haven't seen any pointing to anybody else. So if Bryankohberger has a ton of circumstantial evidence and maybe one piece of hard evidence, even though I think I've heard you say it's a movable object, there's nobody that can even come close to even being a part of this crime, or it wasn't Kohberger and somebody else did it at all, because there's no amount of circumstantial evidence against anybody else in the world.
Well, that's because they focused on him.
Oh, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Okay, because I want to talk about the focus.
Oh, well, before we do that,
later on. Yeah.
You brought up no one else being targeted as a
Close.
suspect or whatever. So
No, I didn't say that.
oh, how did you say?
I said I think they did look at other suspects. They looked at other people because they didn't have Kohberger's name till very later on. So, we could talk about that when that time arrives. But
Mhm.
I think what I'm saying is there's no amount of circumstantial evidence come even close to what they have against Kohberger that anybody you could name John Doe.
Right, but my response to that, it's because they didn't do it. And so, okay, you have trace invisible DNA that they miraculously found on the strap of the sheath, while there's blood on the sheath that they did take, and they know it was male, and they just keep saying it's unknown male. So the piece of evidence, the sheath is labeled Q, right? So there's also 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4. Okay, so Q1 is the trace sample that they took all the way through the genealogy process, landed on his dad, matched to him. Okay, but they've got a glove that I believe they found right outside the door. It's not the one the reporter found later. So there's pictures of it, and there was blood positive samples on it. Like they tested different parts of it. That's unknown. So someone left a glove at the scene. They were bleeding, and it's not Ethan's. It's not any of the other witnesses or people that they interview, whoever they tried to match it to. Like all their names are blurred out, so you can't see who they tried to match it to. So I can't see trying to solve a quadruple homicide and having three, because the three samples don't match each other, because they labeled them male B, male C, male D, like that. So if they were the same, they wouldn't do that. That boggles my mind. Like, you're trying to find, and that's why I don't think Brian's involved at all, because why wouldn't you rat out the people you were with? Can't do anything to you now. You're already locked up.
Oh, I'm glad you're saying that now. Yeah. That wasn't
Why
your thought
not?
process earlier. What made you change your
If
mind?
you did it.
Well, that, his life was in danger, so he had to plea. And then,
that's not my reason for his plea. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Later.
Yeah, because
No, that has nothing to do with the plea deal.
Yeah,
I'm talking about, a lot of people say if he did it with other people, why not spill the beans? Who was there with you? So if you're not doing that, maybe you don't know because you weren't there, because you didn't do it. So you don't have anything to say.
Oh, I'm glad there's a shift in that, because that was not the narrative probably a year ago, even 6 months ago. That wasn't the narrative. The narrative that, he's not going to say a word because he's afraid of these people. And it wasn't until, I think, maybe the last episode we actually aired, or the one that we didn't air, the one we attempted before this one, that you and I had a conversation about, isn't being free and having the earth available to you to hide much easier and a better option if people are chasing you than going to a federal prison where all the bad people are hanging out? And I thought that was kind of a shift in your thinking a little bit then, but
it is. I want to we're going to end with the plea deals.
Okay.
So
Yep.
yeah, I have a lot to say about that. But my point now is, and I guess I see it both ways, it's because if you're not involved, you have nothing to say. If you are involved, the theory I have is about very dangerous people involved in a very dangerous world. You would not say anything. You would not say anything because they run the prison systems and, rats. And that's kind of why I think this whole thing happened in the first place, is because of rats. So if you know that, and if you know that's the reason, you're definitely not going to say anything. So I don't know which one it is, but yeah, that's what I think. But I cannot understand why you leave unknown male DNA just hanging out there like, oh, I don't know. It's not like it was on a beer can that could have been left there from a week ago. It was on a glove. It was in blood mixed with the victim's blood on like the banister on one of the steps. And on the actual sheath that they're saying was held the weapon that was used.
We did have a conversation about this, and if there was anything that I think was, it used to be the whole Syray thing, right? With his confidence and exculpatory and, and all that. And, that was kind of leaning me a little bit toward the middle to say, hey, there could be something here. I'm interested to hear that information. You and I were talking about this unknown male DNA on the sheath. And this was the other thing that I wanted to learn a lot more about. I don't think we have heard specifically from, the prosecution or the investigators or the police or FBI or anything on what this sample entails and, why they can't extract a match from it either through CODIS or just the people in the area or whatever that is. So I am curious. I'm not using it as a piece of evidence to convict or exonerate.
It doesn't exonerate Brian,
Kohberger,
but
right?
it's certainly, to me, I don't know how you could argue that it doesn't make it seem, at the least, very suspicious that there was more than one person involved in this crime.
No, I know, and I have to, check my triggers, I guess, when you say it's suspicious. I, I'm looking at this case and I'm trying to take the viable information that's provided and say, okay, given this information, what we know is pointing towards one person. So, and what I don't know is I don't know what that male DNA is. I don't know if that's not bryankohberger's DNA.
He was excluded.
I don't know if I've seen that document because we went looking.
I have it. That's in that pile.
Okay. So I want to see what that amount of DNA is. What did they test it against? And if anybody, who was excluded.
Yeah. So they do that in the reports. So it'll say like one of them, I think the one on the railing, like.
No, I'm talking about the knife sheath. The knife. That's the piece of evidence that is moving me toward the middle. The railing, the glove, that means nothing to me because that could have been there.
It's mixed with Kaylee's blood.
Yes, that to me means nothing because that could have been there previously. That could have been a blood droplet on top of a blood droplet. So that means nothing to me. The murder weapon sheath is what is moving me towards the middle. So that's what I'm curious about. Now, if they have, some type of explanation about this male DNA on the sheath in these reports, I haven't seen them. I haven't heard anybody talk about them to any level of expertise. So if you have it, I'd love to see that because we talked about this a few weeks ago, and that's the information that I am curious about.
So, okay. So with the blood on the sheath, so 1.1 is the strap.
So when you say 1.1, there was a picture of the sheath in the documents, and they labeled things 1 through.
Yeah, we looked at it. Remember?
I'm doing
4,
it for
I believe. 1 through 4.
1 through 4. So they labeled things 1 through 4. So there's 4 areas that yielded some results that they're going to talk about in the report you're about to share right now.
Yes.
Okay.
So the swab of the front strap of the knife sheath, I believe, is the trace DNA. The DNA profile obtained from 1.1 was determined to be an unknown male, Ethan Chapin, comma, and then a big redaction, which I think was probably maybe their first suspect. I don't know. And another person are not the source of DNA on this item. This DNA profile was entered into the combined, so it was entered into CODIS. So yeah, so that's the one that they put into CODIS.
Okay.
And this is the one that's going to ultimately match to Brian.
Okay.
So I
That's what
do
was gonna ask.
believe
Yes.
there's another part in that almost 3,000 document that talks about this stuff, because I think when they get to the dates where they have identified Brian, they'll start putting his name.
Well, that's what I was going to say about this. So when you're looking at 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, at the point of this, they don't know who it is. So the unknown DNA could be Brian.
At this point. So is there a date on this? This is date of offense, date of evidence, November 16th, November 18th is when they accepted it. I don't know what date they did the work. It's probably like they'll have reports later on of like when they did the work, and that's what I'm saying, is that there will be reports somewhere else that I will go find. I'm printing them out and collecting them as I go, and I'm going to have a DNA folder so I have them ready to go.
Well, I want
to sorted like that.
I want you to keep reading this, but I want to table this discussion and let's get all that. And maybe our next episode, we could dive deep into this, and understand specifically, like, okay, what has been out there and what do we know now and what are we waiting for?
Right. But since we have this in front of us,
yes,
I had to take a little time out because I got upset because this doesn't match what I thought my understanding was. So the 1.4 part says the DNA profile obtained from item 1.4 indicates a mixture of DNA with a major profile. And then they're saying that major profile is 757 septillion times more likely to be Kaylee. So that's the one part of the mixture.
Yep.
And then they're saying, assuming a 2-person mixture, Madison Mogan is the potential contributor to the other part of it.
Right.
So there's no other unknown male on this piece of paper that is page 2 of 4 in the Idaho State Police forensic documents. And I don't know what exact page number it was.
Well, and if we can, and what I like about our show, not a shameless plug, but I think what I like about our show is we go through it together and we say, okay, this is how I'm seeing it. Are you seeing it this way? And you'll say, hey, Carlos, this is how I'm seeing it.
I try to do that.
Aren't you seeing it this way? And I think that's a good thing, because I think sometimes people hear something and maybe not go back and look at what you've been doing, because you've been reading these documents without commentary. So you're coming across all kind of crazy stuff that we want to talk about, that it gives us a chance to debate it, not on theory, but on facts that you're getting from these documents, that we can say, okay, now having this back and forth, I'm seeing this document a little bit differently. Or Carlos, you're not seeing what's missing from this document that is causing me some angst, right?
That's always my mission, is to go find whatever I can find to prove my point. But, this caught me off guard because it's not what I thought. And I'm not going to ignore it just because it doesn't match my original thinking. So it
doesn't change
more,
and it doesn't change my thought that I want to know more about this, because there are mixtures, there are
Yeah.
other things on here that haven't been clarified that maybe at some later date or maybe some different document drop, we might get more information. So if you are going to have a DNA folder, once we get that one, we can slide it in there and compare and contrast, because we only have, 100 pieces of a 500-piece puzzle right now.
Yeah. We have all the forensics, I think, that they're going to release from the Idaho State level. And they're not hard to read through because it's almost 3,000 pages, and they'll, talk about one part of the sheath, and then they'll give you like tables and like hundreds of pages of charts that I'm not looking at that. I
Right.
have no idea what that means. I'm
wouldn't
looking for
understand
the
either.
little narrative,
Yeah.
like what's it explaining? So, and then I also understand this might not be the only narrative that's in those 3,000 pages. So
Right.
I don't know if we said it in this part, but this is when they didn't know Brian's name, probably.
Exactly.
And then later when they do know his name and who he is and can match, the information might be different. So
Exactly.
we will go back later and look at that. But just to finish this up, 1.2 was a mixture of 3 individuals, and 1 is a male. But they said due to the low level results and limited data, no comparison could be made. And then the partial DNA obtained from 1.3 was a mixture from at least 2 individuals. 1 is a male, but they're saying due to the low results, no comparison can be made.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think the perpetrator at any point, just to maybe tie up this DNA stuff here, so we believe that Bryan Kohberger's DNA got on the snap before he came to the crime scene, right? Because he was gloved up and that whole thing, right?
Probably.
So he was touching the sheath, not knowing it was going to stay at the crime scene, that it was going to come back with him. So maybe he wasn't as careful with the sheath, right?
If it was him and if he was there, that's when it would have happened. I don't think he did that at the scene.
So yeah, exactly. That's my point. So this unknown male DNA, which could be Brian's, we don't know, right? On this report, it could be Brian's because there's an unknown male DNA, and Brian was still unknown at this time.
Right.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, though, that other people reading the docs said that only the 1.1 is Brian.
Okay.
Like, that's the only thing that I'm pretty sure has come out, that just that strap.
So that's what we want to find out, right? We'd love to find that out, hopefully in later documents. So that's a question that we will continue at a later date.
Oh, do the other ones? Well, I don't know. This doesn't look, because 1.2 and 1.3 they couldn't test.
That's my point. So Brian probably touched the sheath. They got a clear DNA sample on the button strap. Couldn't get a clear one at other places because blood landed on top of it. So it was a mixture of things, is my theory, if we want to use theories. Okay, because he didn't really need to, he was going to take that back with him. The perpetrator was going to take that back with him. That wasn't supposed to be left at the crime scene. But my question to you is there any chance that Brian could have left biological DNA at the crime scene during the crime?
I absolutely think whoever committed this crime left biological evidence. Yes.
You think? Okay.
Spit, blood, hair. I mean, yes.
Okay.
But nothing else that they've tested came back to him. Who's going into a house to commit a quadruple murder and bring in a sheath? That is ridiculous. That's like, I'm going to holster my gun and I'm going to have my gun in a holster, for the Wild West shootout. Like, no, you're going to have your gun in your hand. Like, I don't know. It's ridiculous to me.
Seems ridiculous.
Yeah.
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 So my question to you is, or was, do you think the perpetrator or Bryan Kohberger, my theory, left biological DNA while at the scene? And you said, yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, heck no. That if there is male DNA on that sheath, he was covered from head to toe, mouth covered, spittle couldn't get out, right? He couldn't get spittle out. I mean, he was so covered that if he was sweating, no sweat droplets, this dude was covered from head to toe. And we don't have any evidence of him bleeding anywhere, right? Because no blood samples came back
Not to him.
to him. So we don't,
But I think someone else was bleeding.
for sure someone else bled in that house. We don't
Mhm.
know if it was that night, but someone else had bled in that house. So my point is, if there's anything on that sheath, I think this is where it's a point for you guys. How many people had touched that sheath, have their DNA on that sheath, or is it just all Bryan Kohberger's? Because
Well, that could
nothing
be
else
how
got left.
that could be how his DNA got on it.
Yeah, but nothing else got left, according to the crime scene.
Well, and that's odd
analysis.
because if you have like a balaclava is a knit hat, it gets fuzzy. Has string. I have one right over there. Like you would think things could fall off of it, like material could fall out, whatever that person was wearing.
Yeah.
Same thing with the glove.
Fibers.
They showed a picture of the glove and it didn't look like it wasn't leather. It wasn't like it was a fluffy soft material.
We don't know that's the murder scene glove.
Well, it was right outside the house, found the next morning.
Right, but we don't know that that's the murder scene glove. So we
don't know that's the murder scene sheath.
Because a glove was found outside the house that did not have Maddie or Kaylee or Xana's blood on it.
I'd have to go
during
look at
a
the report.
bloodbath of a crime. And if a glove is left outside.
So that's another document that I need to go looking for.
Yeah.
Is what they found on, because I know they found blood on that glove.
Right. But whose blood should be on that glove? If it's part of the murder scene, whose glove should
the killer?
No.
Yeah, because they got cut. Oh, and the victim.
And the knife.
There should be something. If you're sticking your hand in a glove, your skin cells would be inside the glove. Boom, you should know who it is.
Don't disagree with that one bit. And because they have Bryan Kohberger's DNA, they could have matched to him at some later date, right? When they got it. My question to you is, though, and I just want to be clear that I'm asking it correctly. If theirs was a glove outside of the murder scene that you believe, or maybe some folks believe, was part of the crime, are you saying that glove would or would not have the victim's blood all over it?
Yeah, it would.
Okay. Did that glove have the victim's blood all over it, to your knowledge? Because I've heard of that glove on the outside, and everything I've heard, it did not have the victim's blood all over it. So to me, it seems like, yes, there was a suspicious glove outside, but it was not part of the murder scene.
Items 1 and 40. So 1 is the sheath and 40 is the glove. Were swabbed for DNA collection. They indicated the presence of the blood. It's so small. I should have you read it. Black polar penguin, right hand glove, additionally labeled, whatever. 17 total stains, 8 on top side, 6 on fingers, and 1 on cuff. All positive. I don't know if I printed it out, but there would be another report with that, like I need the narrative about it.
Yeah, so that'd be good for our follow-up episode on this. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Well, this is the, wait a minute, conclusions. So look, this is, see all these redactions?
Yep.
So item 40.4, swabs from inside the glove. 41, reference and swab blank. Like it's all blanked out.
So the blood didn't match. Well, if it says it didn't match, they should put the victims on there.
It doesn't say that.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not, I haven't got to that part yet. DNA analysis employing the polymer chain reaction was used to generate a short tandem repeat profile from items. And then I would have to look at what all these are, but definitely 40.1 and 40.2, 40.3. I think those are all different parts of the glove. And then it's like big redaction are not the source of the unknown male A DNA profile previously obtained from 1.1. So the glove doesn't match Brian. So the blood on the glove does not match Brian.
Right.
Okay.
And the blood on the glove does not match a victim.
Yeah, I would assume all the victims, and although I don't know because they haven't been redacting the victims' names.
Yeah, that's why I'm curious about.
So these must be other suspects. There's no way. Like some of them are saying mixtures, 2-person mixture, 2-person mixture, but then they're just redacting all the names. So you can't know. The partial DNA profile obtained from item 40.4 indicates a mixture of DNA with a major profile. Assuming a 2-person mixture, a second unknown individual is a potential contributor to the minor profile. The same unknown male D, from item 40.1 is a potential contributor to the major DNA profile. Due to the low level results, no conclusions can be made regarding the minor contributor. So they're still calling it unknown male D, which that's what's got everybody in an uproar, that there's like 3 other unknown males.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And then, of course, they consumed all those. So there's no DNA left to test of those. Okay, DNA, that's a big one. You know, the blood. As I was reading through the reports today, I thought it was interesting that they also took blood samples from another house on the street. Oh, no, they said apartment, 1127 King Road. So they took that and did samples of that too.
And who did it come back? Did it come back to anybody?
You're asking me. I don't know.
Well, no, I don't. Well, I mean, if it was one of the victims, that would be a bombshell.
Yeah, I don't think.
Okay. So, I mean, you know, we talked about how I've left blood in the bathroom and I keep showing it to you, you know, because of this case.
It got cleaned.
Yeah, it did get cleaned. But if we put some amino black on there, we'd still see it.
Okay. So, all right. So that's all the DNA stuff that has come out that I just don't feel like, I mean, obviously I need to keep going back and reading through it and seeing everything. So from the get-go, now that we're getting this information from the reports, we can look back now and see a lot of either inconsistencies or things that they told us with, like, you always say, like, just because you say it with conviction doesn't mean it's true. Yep. That's a good one, you guys. Yep. Just because you say it with conviction doesn't mean it's true. And we were told, like, from the very beginning, and it just seems that, you know, the law enforcement through the prosecutors that were talking heads at the podium of these press conferences and stuff would put out little tidbits that would become the talking points on the news. So, you know, one of the ones was, they were all sleeping. They were all sleeping and they were killed in their beds. The coroner went on and said that. And then now we come to find out, no, they weren't. Nobody was sleeping. There's phone evidence of Dylan and Bethany. I think they had maybe a 15-minute window where they could have, there was no phone activity. They could have slept for about 50 minutes, but that was way after 4:30 in the morning, like between that 8-hour period.
So let's talk about not sleeping. So I guess I want to hear from you. Why does that concern you? Why are you concerned whether they were sleeping or not sleeping?
Well, it concerns me that law enforcement lied. That's what concerns me.
Okay, so I think everything I heard was that the coroner said that they were sleeping, but I don't think law enforcement corroborated that.
I just read the PCA before we came on here, and I can't remember
Okay.
exactly how the coroner said it. So then all the news stations said it.
Right.
So that became the narrative.
Yeah.
They were killed in their sleep.
Yes. And so
The family said it. Everybody said it because that was
that's what the coroner had said.
narrative.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
coroner had said it, right? And then people picked up on that, right? And yeah, I would hate that to be 100% true, that everybody was sleeping, because from what we understand, Maddie had way, 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 way less defensive wounds than Kaylee and Xana, and Ethan had hardly any.
But he still had some. They
Had
all
some.
4 had defensive wounds.
And if we were to, and again, I'm not a prosecutor on this case nor an investigator, but if I were to surmise or just make a guess as to
Mhm.
who was sleeping or who was,
Yeah.
I would say Maddie and Ethan were,
Right.
and Xana and Kaylee were
Right.
up,
Up. Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form. So, to me, is that a I don't even know the word to say, like, when you kind of brush everything with, well, it was a wild crowd, everybody was sleeping, because some people presented that way. Not everybody in the crowd was wild, but some people were asleep when they probably got attacked.
But I don't think that was,
but I guess the point of that is I don't know the difference that it makes in the case. So I want to hear from you. Why should that concern me?
So we're trying to get a timeline of what happened when and where everybody was when. So in the PCA, it does say that Brett Payne was told that by either Bethany or Dylan that everybody was home and in at least in their bedrooms at 2 a.m. So again, implying everybody's in their own bedrooms sleeping, right? That's not what happened.
No, and that's from their perspective.
Now we know 2 years later, Kaylee's dancing with Murphy in the living room, and Dylan's awake in her room, and Bethany's awake in her room, and Maddie might be passed out upstairs, and nobody knows where Xana and Ethan are, but apparently they're waiting for a DoorDash, but nobody even knows anything about the DoorDash person until 3 years later. And, now we know that Dylan heard Kaylee scream and run upstairs and say, there's someone here, and then run back downstairs. And she heard someone over by the bathroom by Xana's, and I'm going to have like all this stuff that paints a total different picture than, one burglar dressed in black sneaking into the house and going quietly upstairs and nobody knows he's in the house. Like, to me, hearing that a roommate heard Kaylee scream, there's someone here, just puts this image in my head that, like, maybe Kaylee was going up to bed and sees somebody, and runs back down. And it just, that to me, it just changes the events and the way it happened.
Unless there's a video camera to see exactly what happened, we may never know, right? Because there was no eyewitness to the actual murders,
right? But just because nobody knows exactly, right? But when I hear that, so here's what I envision Kaylee's in her room and going upstairs, and either going upstairs and running into somebody. Maybe he was already attacking Maddie. Maybe he had just snuck in through the sliding door and was coming out of her bedroom. I don't know. However, that person got up there. Because here's the other thing. Some people think Xana was in the kitchen. Okay, well, if Brian's coming through the sliding door, he's going to see her first. So then, but Dylan didn't hear Xana in the kitchen. She heard Kaylee in the living room. So if Kaylee's in the living room and Brian's coming in through the slider, he has to go through. Doesn't he have to go through the living room to get to the steps?
Yeah. So
Like it just changes the whole way the thing happened.
and I see everything that we just added into this, and what they weren't asleep and people might have been moving around. I don't see it the way you see it at all with the same information. I see it completely different than you see it.
We need to draw. I'm going to do an episode on this, because we now have better understanding that there was a DoorDash person walking around outside from 3:45 to 4, and the white car coming at a certain time. And there's also some tan sedan driving by during that time. And we know that, so I was always, thought it was extremely important that there's a guy walking up to the dumpster. It's also close to 4 a.m. So to me, like the time when they say the time of the crime is between 4 and 4:20, I'm like, I see a lot of activity going on. Like, to me, I keep calling it a convergence on the house. Like, that guy walks up to that dumpster. He's clearly taking something out of there, a weapon, direction, like, I don't know, something. And I can't say for sure he went to the house, but he's sure walking in the direction towards the house. And then apparently I just found out the house that has the camera, the pumpkin, the one that they caught Brian's car, the white car on, if it's Brian's.
Good catch.
A white car. And the DoorDash person walking.
Yeah.
There's a document that they interviewed her, that one of the girls that lives there, and she said, and it was the morning of the murders. So she sent a clip to the police. Like, I can do that on my phone. Like, it clips it, right?
Right.
And she saw one of those clips, and it was somebody at their dumpster, like at that same time. So now you've got 2 individuals going to dumpsters around the same time, heading towards the house. That's too coincidental. That's too coincidental. And at first I thought, wait, is she forwarding the clip from that other dumpster? Right. I'm trying to rationalize this. I'm trying to, is she just sending that other one? But I'm like, there's no way. That wasn't even out yet. This is like the morning of the crime. So there's no way she had access to that. Yeah.
No, I trust me, honey. If there are suspicious things going on at the periphery, I'd certainly want to make sure that the police were looking into that. And if they dump, 100,000 pieces of evidence and make not one mention of the person caught on camera, from that pumpkin video, and if there's some guy out there, they're using that as a big piece of evidence, right? So you need to explain everything. Who's the guy standing outside that apparently almost got hit by Brian when he left?
But what's
who's
funny?
The person at the dumpster, right?
Yeah.
So that's the information.
Yeah.
Without it, we can speculate of what we think it is.
Right.
So what I want is the evidence.
Yes.
And then I'm going to make a determination.
Yes.
Right. So it's easy for, people maybe not like me that would say, hey, until you give me information, I'm going to believe the worst of this. I'm going to believe this until you can disprove me. Right. And I'm saying, unless there's something that inserts them into it, that didn't insert them into the crime scene.
Okay. You've got 3 people that are not Brian Kohberger.
Yes.
At the time of the crime.
In the vicinity.
Yeah.
Which sometimes you'll say, hey, this was a busy area. And then I try to say, well, that night it wasn't that busy, and that's.
Look, the dude could have been picking up a drop off of substances from a friend. I get it. It's just very odd that
it could have been
like,
a dumpster diver.
He wasn't there that long. He wasn't there that long. He opened it up. Whatever he needed was right there. He grabbed it and he went on his way. And It just happens to be at that time. So
Yeah.
I have that on my list of, I want to know who that person was.
I agree.
Yeah.
And not only the person with the pumpkins, but the other one that I thought the video camera was on trees because you kept saying he came from the woods.
No, so then that's at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're saying the crime ended around 4:30,
30-ish, yeah.
whatever. So if you're the person who committed that crime, I've heard people just speculate that you got to leave the house if you're not in a car. Even though the judge said you can only be the murderer if you drove a car. Like he literally said that at a trial. like only the murderer could have only driven to the house, according to the judge. But if you were on foot, there's paths and little wooded tree line areas that it would be a out and about way to go over to where he got picked up at 5 in the morning.
So I want to go back to so I agree with what all you're saying. Until we have something that's a document that can explain what these things are, speculate away, right? I mean, I'd say speculate away because there's no evidence to prove disprove your theory. And so there's evidence to disprove your theory.
So we're talking about the evidence, like looking at these documents, this information. Why do you think, like, the case is closed? Case is closed. Okay. Why? Okay. Case is closed. Release all the court documents. Release everything.
Yeah.
What do you got to hide?
What? I'll tell you what they got to hide. It's the reason why it's been taking so long. But I think you know the answer as well.
What?
The reason they're taking so long to release all these documents is they're trying to protect people who were not named in this murder, that were witnesses or things like that they're redacting from this document dump.
Okay, so names I understand.
Yeah,
that's not all they're redacting. Like, do you think they need to redact the name of a fraternity or sorority house? That's just weird to me. There's and things that are being redacted are not just like I am
Mad Greek. Did they redact the Mad Greek?
I can't, like, places of business. No, because they say corner club. I think they say corner club. I don't know. It's hard because sometimes when things like that are redacted, I know what it is, so I can't remember if it was redacted.
Well, we should look at that.
Yeah,
let's look at that. Let's see if is it people or is it people in businesses or what is being redacted?
Yeah. But it's more than that. It'll be like tidbits of information, or especially in the interviews. Like when you watch the recorded video interviews, they bleep out like sentences of information, and it's like, you can't do that.
No, I think you can, especially be like, well, what's your name? What's your phone number?
It's not that
what's
stuff.
Your address? Whose house did you go over? What did he say? Yeah, I could see there being some of that, but
it just seems to be more than that. It just seems to be more than
well, that. I would like to listen to one that you feel has been overdone.
Okay.
And let's see if I can fill in the blanks, right?
Yeah.
And see, hey, is this evidence stuff that's too gruesome for the public to hear, or are they hiding something, right?
Yeah.
So the people who did the interviews could easily come out, Hunter could easily come out and be like, dude, I said that, this, and this, and they totally cut that out, and that's an important piece of, I mean,
well,
no one's screaming from the hilltops.
So that's a new discrepancy with Hunter, is that because Emily's interview got released. So I don't know who got interviewed first, Hunter or Emily, but Emily said when she walked up the steps. Now, Hunter said he got there first. So Hunter was well ahead of them, the people at the apartment. And he went into the room. He saw Xana and Ethan. Then he went, got a knife out of the kitchen. He went back in, checked the closet. And then he said he went. And now at this time, they're coming up the steps. And he's like, get out and call 911. But Emily said when she came up the steps, she saw a knife on the floor at the top of the steps. Like, that's confusing. Like, I thought Hunter got the knife out of the kitchen and he's holding the knife. Like, why is the knife on the and then they say they put the knife on the beer pong table. And
Well,
in
you see
some
that on
pho-
body cam.
In some photos, it's there.
Well,
Some
you see that
photos
on
it's
body
not.
cam.
Yeah, when the
Yeah.
cop tells him, right? Is that what you're talking about?
He's walking with the cop, and he's like, he said it right, and he sets it
Yes.
on. So you see that happening.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
They also took it in for evidence, so that was good to know. They took that in for evidence, but I haven't seen. I do think it tested positive for blood. So I don't know whose would be interesting.
Did Hunter check her pulse or anything? Did he say he did?
I think he said he checked Xana's, which from the description of her injuries, like I don't. And 8 hours, like 8 hours. I don't think she's looking like there's a chance. Like rigor mortis has set in. Are you checking a pulse? I don't know.
I'm just
That's
asking if he
gruesome,
said
but
he checked the
yeah.
pulse.
He might. I can't remember his interview. He might have. I don't know.
I want to go back to something that I didn't want to break in, but I want to go back to something you said when you said Dylan said, and I think at times we're using her testimony as the law of the land, and sometimes we're saying she doesn't know what she's talking about, right? I think Dylan herself, the defense, even the prosecution has all said you have to take her testimony, her interviews, not testimony, her interviews with a bit of grain of salt, because she's questioning herself. This is what I think happened. I don't know if it was part of a dream. I don't know if I was drunk. I don't know if I imagined. I don't know if I saw that. I don't know if I heard that. I don't know if it was that person. I don't know if it was this person. I don't know, but this is what I'm piecing together in a crazy night. This is what I'm trying to piece together. So when you say, hey, I'm going to make assumptions on who was sleeping, who wasn't, because Dylan said she heard dancing in the, living room. Who knows, right? There was no cameras there. We didn't get to see that.
But I will tell you, like, as soon as you can see them outside the house, when the cops get there and they're like, the cops say, hey, can you guys go across the street, go stand by the dumpster or whatever and wait. I mean, like, Jack D walks up, Ethan's brother and sister walk up. Like, Dylan is taking charge, going up to each person and getting that narrative out. Like, she's like pretty much at 4 a.m. I saw a guy in black and he was in the house and he had a mask on and he went upstairs and I tried to call them. And she said that over and over and over again to every single person that came up. So now you turn around and these are all the people that are about to be interviewed about what happened that night. And now they're all saying the same thing that Dylan just told them.
Which has no effect on their testimony because they weren't there.
But they're still spreading. She is just like, that's what happened. Like, she was very sure about it, like immediately, and telling everybody pretty much at 4 a.m., guy in black going upstairs. Okay. So she did know.
Well,
she did know.
I don't know if I heard her say he went upstairs. I heard her say he walked past my door.
Oh, on the way out.
Okay.
So she saw him on the way out.
Okay. Yeah. So everything I heard from her is there's some consistent things, but there are other things that are, like, I don't know if this truly happened. I don't know if this.
That's later in the interviews when they're trying to get more details out.
Right.
But the only like pieces that seemed like she wanted to be out was 4 a.m., guy in black leaving out the slider. Like, that was what was said, like, over and over and over again. And then when they try to I'm very frustrated with the interviews. Like, the interviews are horrible. Like, I could have done better interviews. You could have done better interviews than those police did. Like, and that's why it seems like they were purposefully avoiding things. Like, how do you listen to a surviving person in a quadruple homicide tell you, I heard a gunshot, because it's never fireworks. We know that she heard a gunshot, and you don't ask further questions. Like they didn't ask one follow-up question about it. I mean, horrible. And now I'm even more curious about that because I told you there's a document. It's in the forensic pages, and they have to check off like what types of evidence were collected. So, or what were they looking for to be collected? And it was, sharp-edged weapons, trace materials, like all that kind of stuff, and firearms and stuff was checked off. So I don't know if it means they found that, but they were definitely looking to collect that. Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing I was surprised about though is if Bethany heard a gunshot on the first floor, I would expect to see bullet holes in the walls or the door. Cause I almost thought, well, maybe they shot the front door open, but there's no there. I don't think there's evidence of that.
Not yet. Well, they can't go back to the house because it's gone.
Another curious thing, but but the defense agreed to it. So
yeah,
I don't understand all of that, but I could go on and on and on about all the stuff that we question.
So
I question. I'll just speak for myself.
Oh, okay.
Speak for myself.
So of the stuff that you're questioning, what is probably the one thing that you're like, this one's got to make sense to me. I can't even look over there until this one makes sense to me.
I mean, waiting 8 hours, waiting 8 hours to call for help. Like what was going on during that 8 hours? Because I told you there's just based on the text exchanges that I don't know if they're released publicly. I think someone FOIA'd them. So I think someone has them, but I don't know if they're like released publicly. But one thing that would help, I think, we know that those girls called their parents in the morning. Like I would love to see that. Yeah, those were just like innocent phone calls that like, I'm scared, something really messed up is happening right now. Please tell me what to do. But again, that's before they know that their roommates are dead upstairs. So why are you calling your parents on a Sunday morning at like 6:30, 7 in the morning?
Didn't one of them have like a toothache or something, and their father was a dentist or something? And like, well, you say supposedly, but
they both called their parents.
Wasn't that question asked and answered?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but I would like to see that. I don't know if we would because they're like redacting all that kind of stuff. The other thing is there was a big rumor, and we know those kids communicated by Snapchats.
Yes.
And I just think it would dispel a lot of the thoughts out there of other alternative perpetrators or motives or things like that. If we could see those Snapchats of what these kids were communicating about, because a lot of people thought Ethan and Xana were targeted in some kind of fight that night, and that people knew, and that Snapchats were going around about it. And other people claimed that there were Snapchat, like people have said that the college kids knew something had happened at like 9 a.m. in the morning.
So was any of that subpoenaed?
Yes. Yeah, the police have it. I don't know if we'll ever get to see it.
Okay. So yeah, everything's getting released in some major data dumps. Was there some release again last night?
Well, I haven't looked.
Well, I think I saw something today where someone said, and last night I was like, oh boy.
Well, I know some creators are like FOIA requesting things, so they get them at different times and then they put them out. Well, here's another question for you. Okay. So you can FOIA things. It's kind of like requesting like medical records or something. Like, there's going to be a fee for like their printing cost or the paper cost or things like that.
Yeah.
It should be reasonable, right? They are charging people like $800, $1,000. Someone paid like $200 for a 10-minute video, and it was a bunch of bleeps. Like, do you think that that's right? $200 for a 10-minute video that most of it's like redacted.
I don't know the process to get all that stuff together. I mean, in some cases should be rather easy, but when I look back at the case and a lot of the pretrial hearings, Ann Taylor had access to all that stuff and she just threw her hands up. I can't go through this stuff. So you got some lab clerk trying to find this thing in a terabyte world that overwhelmed, what I'm hearing is one of the premier defense attorneys in the state of Idaho, and they couldn't even go through it. So is $200 a lot to find 1 megagram of a terabyte in the sea of information?
Well, and it's funny.
Maybe.
No, I think it's too much because they did it to themselves, because I think they purposefully didn't organize it, right? They put it in a big hot mess.
Yeah.
You go find it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, probably.
Stalling tactic.
Probably. Yeah.
And now it's biting them, but now they're making the people. But I do think that there's a chance that that's not okay to do. Someone might be taking legal action against that. I don't know. We'll see. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious. I mean, it's literally like someone saying, "Hey, could you go get that needle in that haystack?" I mean, at least from what I'm hearing. So if there's some monetary cost to it, to find it, okay. I don't know what it entails.
I feel personally like, charge me for ink, charge me for paper, wear and tear on your printer or whatever it might be.
Nailing it.
But I don't think I should be paying the hourly wage of your worker, because that's their job. Like that's their job. So it might take you 3 months to get to my request, but you do it within your 8-hour workday. I don't feel like I should, but they're also charging people because they're having a lawyer also go through stuff to make sure. It is really wild what they are doing before they let the public see stuff.
Well, I think you just answered why they're charging so much. If you have a lawyer going through stuff and you just got a video with 100 beeps in it.
Well, why do I have to pay for the lawyer? Or why does, whoever's requesting it have to pay for the lawyer?
Because you're looking for something prior to it going through its due process.
I don't know. You would think it would have, I don't know. I guess I can't argue that one right now, but it seems peculiar. So that might come to a resolution too.
Yeah. And I agree that, hopefully it's not a profit center out there in Moscow.
Seems like it.
Well,
seems like it.
If we had to hire 5 other clerks to go through all this stuff and 2 lawyers to, double check it. Okay. Maybe they're balancing it out a little bit, but, hopefully it's not turned into a profit center.
Yeah. So I told you, I requested, they said something about these Facebook posts, and I'm like, oh, I want to see that. So I put in a FOIA request. How much did I tell you they asked
184 sticks in my head for some reason.
184
sticks in my head.
And they weren't even going to give me the Facebook posts. They were going to give me like notes about it, but they couldn't show me the actual
posted
so
stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I don't want that. So, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. Anything else about the evidence or anything? Okay, because we could go back and forth, I think, a lot on the evidence, but I like where we're kind of heading with the DNA and the sheath and stuff like that, where we could just dive into it instead of speculating at a higher level.
Try to get some answers.
Try to get some answers on specifics, and then we can say, hey, I think that that's something we need to look at more, or hey, I was really thinking that this was a smoking gun and it's not, so it'll help one of us out, along the way. But I do want to take a few minutes, if we have it, to talk about the plea deal. And, this, I still remember. So take you when I came running in the house and I said, Brian took a plea deal.
Oh my God. Did my mouth hit the floor?
Yeah. And you were like, oh, wow, I guess he did it. Right. First reaction.
Yeah.
First reaction. So
I was like, no way.
Yeah.
No way.
And then it was like a couple days until it was actually going to happen. And then you were steadfast. until I hear it come out of his mouth, I ain't believing a word of this. This is just propaganda. And how can they dare? Until I hear him say it, I'm not going to believe a word of it. And then he said it. Right. And the defense didn't jump up and be like, wait, nothing. It was like, he's taking a plea deal.
And not only did he take the plea deal, he let all the appeal things, like you have, even though you take a plea deal, you have a few days, months to rescind it. And then, there's another chunk of time that you can like file some kind of an appeal. So he hasn't done any of that.
No,
he's done none of that.
And agreed not to do that.
I think he still could have done those things.
That is the rumor.
Yeah,
but
he
agreed not to do it.
No appeals.
And he's not appealed. And the prosecution could have like maybe dangled a little bit and said, we want you to tell us exactly what happened. And we want you to do this. And we want you to do that. And none of that happened, right? Which leads us down this road that we're on right now. Because if he would have sit there and said all that stuff, we would have probably had more information and none of this would exist. But that didn't happen either.
It's just funny that you bring that up because they should have asked him it's allocute to explain what happened. And the prosecutor said two things. He said, well, you can't believe him.
Yep.
And we would never be able to verify what he's saying. And I think that is the biggest ridiculous statement to say as a prosecutor, because you're the one that's supposed to be proving he's the guy beyond a reasonable doubt. And if you can't hear what he has to say and be able to say, yes, that's exactly what happened, because we know what happened. What are you saying? You can't verify what he's saying. They have it all figured out. They know what he did. They know when he did it. They know how he did it. They knew he was there. They knew he drove the car. They know the route. Like, why wouldn't they be able to? They know the wounds. They know the positions of the bodies. They might know anything that we don't know as far as like evidence in the house.
What about the stuff we don't know? Like, okay.
But he knows. He knows. So you don't think that's ridiculous for him to say we couldn't verify?
So what about the stuff we don't know? Like, who did he target somebody? Right? Was this a targeted attack? Was it, hey, a dog was speaking to me in the next, the yard next to me. The whole Son of Sam confession, which was a complete lie. So what did he need to verify? What he couldn't verify is the stuff in his head, right? Like, why? He wanted to know, I walked in through the front door. I walked in through the back door. I went to Xana's room first. I went to Kaylee's room first. I attacked this person first. This person was awake in the kitchen. That kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that'd be great for us. But the prosecution should be able to verify some of that. I just thought that was a ridiculous thing to say, but it kind of brings me to my point. So I have done 2 or 3 of my last live shows on plea deals, and I've been finding cases where people have been wrongfully convicted and got appeals, and I've done a lot of research on why that happens, and it's very historical, actually. Like when the United States first broke away from England and started their own, our government was formed, we didn't have that kind of system. It got brought here. I can't remember which country, but we modeled it after some other country. So the plea process, and there was something else. Oh, the Alford plea. Those 2 things, I think, came from, but they have been around for a long, long, long time. In the past, I don't know, decades, 90% of prosecutors don't go to trial in this country every day. They just take a plea deal. And they usually do that when their evidence is weakest.
They don't want to go to trial. They have weak evidence, but they have the power because they're holding all the information. They have the power to threaten, like the firing squad. We're building a room for you. That's what they told Bryan, right? You're gonna die, not only get the death penalty, but you're gonna have the firing squad, and it's a special room, and we're building it right now. And that's what they do. And so then that becomes a bit, and it's just funny how in this case, no, the appeal process comes from the prosecutor. The plea deal, I'm sorry, the plea deal, not the plea deal. Sorry, I'm confusing the words. The prosecution offers, they present it to the table. They're the ones that have to give it. And they painted the picture like, oh, Ann Taylor asked for a plea deal. Like, that's not the way it works.
I may or may
not
not
the way it works.
I may or may not disagree with you on that point, but I'll save that for another time. But I want to hear the rest of what you have to say about the plea deal.
I just think this case tracks with them having weak evidence, him possibly not being the right guy, knowing of all these other cases, popular cases where they wrongfully convicted the wrong person because they jumped too fast to latch on to somebody that maybe they got them to confess, maybe they had bad DNA evidence, things like that. And these people spend 20 years in prison, and then 20 years from now, the technology shows they're not the ones that did it.
Right.
And I just think that's horrible. Like, they should have, and I know why. I think Bryan and his defense attorney would not want to go to trial because the judge that they had now in Boise, she couldn't win anything. Like, she couldn't win anything. He talked to her horribly, gave them nothing. And I think the jury would have been stacked against them. I don't think it would have been there's no way they would have had a fair trial. And I've watched the judge in Karen Reed's case, and I've watched the judge in the Delphi case, who I thought they were bad, right?
And what did the jury do? Came through.
Well, not with Karen Reed the first time, right? What happened the first time? She went twice. Bad judges. And I just think I feel like Ann Taylor could have defended this case and disproved everything, and he still would have been convicted because of the DNA on the sheath.
So possible, right? I think any attorney anywhere in the world would tell you, you never know what a jury is going to do. You never know. It could be one person could hold out one way or the other, and it's a hung jury. You never know what a jury is going to do, because you know who's part of the jury pool? Me and you.
Right.
Me and you are part of the jury pool.
But they did know what the judge was going to do.
But either way, it doesn't matter, because if you go to a jury trial, the people who make the decision are those 12 people in there, and one has to hold out. So you never know what a jury is going to do. So this plea deal, we've said this in 50% of our episodes. If it was you or I sitting in jail with something we didn't do, we'd be screaming from the rooftops. I didn't do this. I would go to a jury trial. I would scream from the rooftops there. If they convict me to death and I have to sit on death row for 20 years till I finally get the firing squad after they build the room, I would be working with the Innocence Project. I would do every single interview I could possibly do. I'd hang out with my old professor and be like, hey, write this book. I'd be talking to all the people who are giving me commissary and saying, hey, can you go out there and tell my story? I would be on podcasts, whatever I could do. I would do everything possible. So this little, he had to take a plea deal is not resonating on this side of the
Well, it
aisle.
doesn't have to
One
resonate.
bit.
It's happened.
One bit.
I
No,
watched
no.
my old episodes.
No,
It's
and
happened a bunch of times.
and what I want to say about your old episodes, which I love, but you're talking about wrongful convictions. This isn't a wrongful conviction. This is a plea deal. But what I want to say on this whole thing with
So I need to find a plea deal.
plea deal, right? Who did a plea deal that was 100% innocent and then got exonerated through DNA evidence? That's the 1-for-1 match that I'm looking for. You know, what you're talking about is relevant and important, but not this case. It is not this case.
It might be the one I'm working on for Monday.
Could be.
Yes.
But I think this plea deal and all the stuff that you mentioned before, I didn't want to jump in there, but everything that you mentioned about did the prosecution have a good case? I don't think so. I mean, I've said numerous times on this podcast, I've said, if I was a juror, I probably still needed a little bit more, and I would be very fixated on what the defense's counter argument to all the evidence that they had, right? I would be very, like, hey, can I introduce another white Elantra in, the 20-mile radius of here that also didn't have a front license plate on it? That wasn't Bryan-Kohberger's. Can I show reasonable doubt in some area? Because right now it's showing it's circumstantial evidence. And I haven't had any reasonable doubt to put on top of that circumstantial evidence. That's what I need. So when someone, and I know you had it here a little bit earlier, when someone says, I saw a tall, slender built person with bushy eyebrows, if my client does not exhibit that, I can lay that on top of reasonable doubt. Right now, I can't. Like, this circumstantial evidence doesn't have any reasonable doubt associated with it because Bryan-Kohberger is not a 5'2" Hispanic male with no eyebrows. He's not. He's a tall, slender, built, muscular guy with somewhat bushy eyebrows.
So that was the case that I did last week, and the witnesses said that there was a girl with two guys, and she was the ringleader, and she was like 5'1", Hispanic, pretty girly girl. And the person they arrested was a very masculine girl, short hair, white Caucasian, couldn't be different, and like 5'6", but she was convicted. She was convicted.
Which can happen because you never know what a jury's going to do.
Exactly, which is why you take a plea deal, especially when you have a judge like the one they were dealing with. Like, and that's why I brought up the Karen Reed case, because in the first trial, even the way when the jury had to go deliberate, she made that jury slip so convoluted. Everybody talking about it on the internet couldn't even figure out how to answer it. Like, how do you answer these questions? Like, judges can interfere, like passively, aggressively, or whatever, but they can.
So here's what I need from you as my wife of nearly 30 years. We're getting close. It's getting closer every day. If you get wrongfully accused of my murder, please do not take a plea deal. Do what you said you're going to do. Scream from the mountaintops. Do every interview possible, and, let's hope for the best. Because the alternative of you just sitting in some jail cell and not fighting for your innocence, I don't want that for you.
I think it's easy to sit here on the outskirts of all the corruption and evilness that you can be manipulated by powerful people. I think if you find yourself in that situation, it's terrifying. You could be getting threatened.
What's more powerful? What power does somebody have over me? What am I going to lose?
They're going to drug you. They're going to starve you. Look at Richard Allen.
Yeah. What power? Would you say they're going to starve me? So when you come and visit me, and I'm saying, hey, they're not feeding me.
like his wife did,
Yeah. What are you going to do?
like she did, tell people,
Okay.
and nobody's going to do
And
anything.
nothing happened.
And no, it went on
the
for
dude
like a
just
year.
starved.
They broke rules. They kept him in isolation for almost a year. You're not legally allowed to do that. Why were they allowed to do that? It's horrible. It's a horrible system. It's a horrible system. It's not fair. It's not benefit of the doubt to the defendant. It has turned into prove your innocence. It has turned into prove your innocence. And then when the prosecution is hiding the evidence you need to prove your innocence, then what do you do? Because law enforcement gets the evidence and they turn it over to the prosecution. And I think you and I talked about that and said it should be like a third party.
So for me, so I won't even use you as an example. If that's my consequences for not admitting guilt, but professing my innocence, if that's my consequences, then I will take those consequences. I will take those consequences. So if I have to go in isolation, if I am not going to get fed, if they're going to starve me to death and I die, and then when they do an autopsy, you, my wife, or my brother, or my daughter can say, hey, this is how my father died, you know?
Yeah, and I swear that's what they did.
But
that
I am not going to jail for something that I didn't do.
Yeah.
And passively let that happen.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen with me.
Yeah, and Richard Allen said the same thing, and they drugged him up so much he was out of his ever-loving mind and said whatever they probably wanted him to say,
even to his wife
on the phone. Yeah, to everybody.
Yeah.
I did it. I have to tell you, I did it.
Yeah, and he's kind of good for it. He said he wasn't there, then he says he was there, and then
oh my God, here we go again.
But
well, that's probably getting an appeal too. So
yeah, well, looking forward to that one. Looking forward to that one.
But yeah, I like your idea, and I wish I could. My memory is not good when you said do cases with plea deals, because I think that's what I was trying to do, to compare, but maybe now I need to look for that. So a case where the person took a plea deal and then was later found innocent by the Innocence Project. So yes, in my other episodes, I was just learning about the appeals process in general,
right?
Which I learned a great deal. So check out those episodes. They're my Monday lives. If you want to learn more about that. But I do like your idea of seeing how that would work with a plea deal.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm expecting, like, I perked up when you said, did documents get released last night?
I'm questioning it. Yeah.
The cell data has to be coming. It has to be coming. And I could understand why, if what we've all been thinking with, maybe it's not going to show exactly what they think would have showed. We are all chomping at the bit to see that stuff.
So there are two things that are leaning me towards, hey, do they have the right guy? There are only two things. One is the sheath, which we're going to dive into in our next episode, because I think the documents are saying a little bit different than what I've been hearing, out and about. Right.
Yeah, I have to clarify some things.
So
get a better grasp on it.
So when I get to understand that, I can come back peacefully to my side and stand my ground. But I think the documents are saying what I believe that they're saying. But let's walk through it. Let me make sure. But the other thing clearly is this cell tower data, right? And I think there's enough in there, even though I think we thought we had a lot of pretty strong evidence until we kind of reread a little bit of Cyray's testimony, whereas they could have or should have been and might have been, instead of those definitive words is they have, they will, they must, it was maybe, kind of, sort of, should have. So I think once we saw that, it pulled me back a little bit, but I'm still willing to come over if these documents can show us, because he was out and about in Moscow and Pullman doing his little somewhere, Wawa, whatever.
We know he was in Pullman.
Yeah. So he had a little backpack on with some stuff. So he was doing some tech stuff that I would really love to see.
Oh, you mean Cy Ray? Yeah. Yes.
And I'd love to hear from him once his information comes out, because supposedly that's why he's holding out. Yeah. So those two things right now, I'm thinking the DNA might be coming back this way a little bit, but I'm willing to look. Well,
okay, that's interesting because it's only law enforcement that's releasing their information. The defense isn't releasing their stuff. It's not.
Ooh. So who's never going to talk?
So because they're probably, if they're going to appeal, don't you think?
No.
I'm talking about if the information can come out that Cy Ray was talking about, like to know that they did have that kind of stuff.
Well, if what you told me a couple months ago when we last talked about this was he is not going to talk till his information comes out. But if you're telling me that his information is only embedded in the defense and the defense isn't releasing anything, he ain't never going to talk.
So I was saying that the defense doesn't release their stuff, but when we say Cy Ray's stuff is going to get released, it's the cell data from law enforcement that they should have had. And what did they use in this case? What did they use to like map out Brian's route? What did they, all the phone pings and I'm not saying it all correctly, but all that data that Cy was kind of saying you have and you used probably we should see that they had some of it, something. Or it's going to be documents. To me, I think it's going to be like if documents that are going to, if you analyzed it, you would know like, oh, they must have this, or they had to have used this program in order to make this or something. That's just my speculations, but I'm hoping those are coming soon is my point.
Yeah. And I wonder will they show raw AT&T data to the public for someone's phone? And do we have the equipment to analyze it? I mean, literally, we could only hear.
They should have reports about it.
Oh, okay.
Like they should, like the reports about it. I mean, they do with the forensics.
Okay.
Like I can't read the DNA charts, but they're there.
Okay. And
like if you know how to read DNA, it's there. You can read it.
Okay.
Yeah. They blacked out like photos of things, stuff like that. So, all right. Upcoming episode. We got to get down to the DNA results.
Yes.
All right.
And then hopefully in the meantime, we get some of this cell stuff and we can start looking that over.
Yeah, hopefully.
Cool.
All right. Join us back for that. We appreciate all of you, our subscribers, our members, and please hit the thumbs up button for us. Hit that like button, and we'll see you back here next time. Bye.
Thanks for watching, hope you felt the spark. Please hit that like before it gets dark. Subscribe, it's free and keeps us going strong. You're part of the crew now, right where you belong. Join us next time, same truth, same fire. We bring the heat and never tire. We're typically unique and proud to be a husband and wife in podcast harmony. That could be unique, yeah, that's you and me. Don't forget to like and hit subscribe, it's free. Come back again, we'll be right here with truth and laughs and zero fear. We don't always agree, but that's the show. One love, two minds, letting it flow. We dig deep with crack jokes, we call it like we see. If that's your vibe, you belong here with me. We don't always agree, but that's the show. One love, two minds, letting it flow. We dig deep with crack jokes, we call it like we see. If that's your vibe, you belong here with me. We don't always agree, but you felt the spark. Please hit that like before it gets dark. We dig deep with crack jokes, we call it like we see. If that's your vibe, you belong here with me. Thanks
Thanks for watching, hope you felt the spark. Please hit that like before it gets dark. Please hit that like before it gets dark. It's free, it keeps us going strong. You're part of the crew, now right where you belong. Join us next time, same truth, same fire. We bring the heat and never tire. We're typically unique and proud to be a husband and wife and proud to be a husband and a wife in podcast harmony. Yeah, that's you and me, that's you and me. Don't forget to like, hit subscribe, it's free. Come back again, we'll be right here with truth and laughs and zero fear.